Hey everybody, and welcome back. The date is February 3rd, 2026. Welcome back to today's episode, and welcome back to Oscar's Cafe Corner. I got my coffee, y'all. Hold on, I need to take a sip. So for some of you just barely tuning in, so I kind of wanted to give people an update of what just transpired a few days ago. So I think in the last episode that I posted about parenting and racism and my perspective on ICE in general and all that, I got a lot of good reactions out of it. So thank you to the people that are listening and commenting and providing feedback. Thank you for as well as sharing, resharing, and just doing what you normally do just to make the channel grow and become bigger than it is. So today I'm trying out a few things too as well, people. I'm doing a 3-in-1 mic. And just kind of see how it sounds comparable versus the regular boom mic, just to kind of streamline the stuff, just because with all the clutter, it tends to kind of get all over the place. There's a whole bunch of moving parts. If you guys were able to see what the desk looks like and what it takes to make a podcast when you're first initially starting, it's a mess. I know there's a lot of people like to say, or you see it on camera or on video, you see, damn man, their setup looks hella clean. It looks like effortless. No, there's a lot of work that goes behind it. So there's a couple things that I want to touch on today. Number one, we're going to take a look at the money line for the Super Bowl that's happening this weekend. Yes, I am fully aware that the Seahawks are playing this weekend. I already have a side bet, which, by the way, I'll touch into that because I think my comadre brought up something that I'm going to bring up on this one, in this episode in particular. But before we dive into that, I did want to say that the channel's growing. I think last time I looked at the analytics, we were about 12,000 or close to 12,000 subscribers, multiple views on different various platforms. And I am incredibly humbled and amazed at how many people actually enjoy the episodes. I thought that with my shenanigans, nobody would want to see this gorgeous, beautiful face, as you can see, because damn, who would want to see this guy for a full 45 minutes? But it looks like people are tolerating the shenanigans that I bring to the table. I did get a little bit of feedback from somebody that was listening. So a comment was posted on one of the videos, and they basically said, hey, we noticed that your channel has a lot of profanity and we find it very offensive. And that was it. Now, again, I don't know if it's a troll or not, because generally speaking, you don't know if people are just trying to trigger or get a reaction out of you. But I want to provide a reminder to those of you that are first-time listeners and coming to the channel. So, number one, as I've said a million times now, this channel, this podcast is completely 100% unscripted. I do not, generally speaking, create this whole script that I'm going to sit here and read behind with a teleprompter. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I think I like that process, and eventually at some point for much more complicated and way more elaborate episodes, then maybe that's something I can implement, especially if I have another guest. Just to keep me on topic and not deviating from various things, right? Like starting one topic, then jump to another one, then go back and forth, and it's just messy. So this is unscripted, so it's raw. So the emotion that you get from me on these videos is a very raw, honest perspective. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Because of my upbringing, let's just say I'm a little bit rough around the edges because I've been around. I've seen plenty growing up, that my perspective on things, and at this point in this stage in my life, I am sick and tired of holding back and filtering what I really wanted to say. I mean, a lot of us tiptoe around stuff, and then we go back, we stop recording, and then we vent and say what we really want to say. And to me, that's not good, because you're internalizing what you really wanted to say to somebody, and instead you're talking shit behind their back, or etc., or you're not really expressing yourself. And I'll give you some examples, right? So let's say you're in a meeting and you're having a conversation, a discussion with management, and there are some things that management states with you or communicates with you that you disagree with completely. Let's just say somebody getting a promotion or over somebody else, and you're just so completely just flabbergasted as to why that decision was made, then internally you want to vocalize and say, hey, I am way more qualified, or so-and-so is way more qualified, then why did you give that position to somebody who doesn't even have the experience? Based on what exactly? Or when you feel that maybe the company's not going in the direction that you want to speak it, that you think should be going, and it's going to impact other employees. Because again, if you are management and you're dealing with your team and you have people that report to you, you are accountable for those people as a manager and as a leader, right? This goes for teachers as well. If you are in teaching, if you are in a managerial position and you have people that are looking up to you for decision making, if there are things that are going to impact the rest of the team and you are the voice of that department and team, you have to speak up. Otherwise, nothing happens. Now, how that translates to these podcasts and these episodes, generally speaking, depending on the topic, I will be a little bit more passionate and more vibrant and more, I guess, much more outspoken than I would in other episodes. And the one that I spoke about last week, I was a little bit more calm because I did want to drive the point home of how I feel about certain things when it comes to immigration, just because I personally went through it. I've been through racism before. And I speak on it very, very honestly. Now, in regards to the profanity, I understand that we can have a conversation in a meeting, in a presentation, without necessarily using profanity, but this is the podcast. I mean, it's a raw perspective from a parent who is tired of just tiptoeing around shit and not saying what he really wants to say. So this is what this channel is for me to voice and express my opinion that maybe somebody else out on the field doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to say, or maybe the ability to vocalize it, and instead they internalize it and they get all pissed off. But if that was you that made that comment, thank you, and I appreciate the feedback. However, we are not going to change who we are. Obviously, I have to moderate and manage the amount of content, explicit stuff that I speak on, because if I get too off top, YouTube won't post any of the videos. And if I'm too bland, then people won't engage, and I won't be able to talk with you like we're talking right now, and you're not going to be listening like you're listening right now. So I have to balance that. But with that being said, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. So we all know that the Seattle Seahawks are playing in the Super Bowl at Levi Stadium this particular weekend. Who's watching it? I'm not. I'm going to be watching on my little phone. I think I'm going to be playing it on the tablet, and I might be making some bets on some money lines and depending. Now, I think I've mentioned before who I really want to win. I want the Seattle, the fudge. I want the Drake May New England Patriots to win. And it's not me being a hater, but honestly, if it's a division rival and they're going to be playing in our stadium at Levi, and they're going to be winning a Super Bowl on our stadium, on our field, I mean, it's like your biggest rival coming to your house, hosting a party on your dime, and charging an admission fee inside your house, and then they're gonna make a mess in your backyard, in your home, in your property, and then you're stuck with the cleanup, right? No, I don't want that. I mean, it's bad enough you're already coming to my house and celebrating here. I sure as hell don't want you recorded as winning here. Can you imagine 10, 15 years ago, my grandkids or my kids telling me, hey, Dad, do you remember when the Seahawks won in Levi in 2026? I don't want to have those conversations, because that was going to be extremely painful, because the Niners have been to so many and so X amount of years that it's honestly pretty infuriating, the fact that we haven't won one, but that's an entirely different topic for a different day that I won't dive into on this episode. But I did want to go into on PFF.com. What does it say, people? Let's see if I'm going to be betting some shit. So the current Super Bowl, the way that it sits, and according to Pro Football Focus, the over-under is 4.5. It has not moved. So the money line has not moved. So The New England Patriots are still the underdogs, 4.5 points. So they're still giving Seattle a week. So that tells me that Las Vegas feels pretty confident about this number. Now, it's up to the product that's placed on the field. We'll have to wait and see. The over-under right now is 45.5. So again, they're expecting a pretty well-balanced game. Both defenses are pretty well. The overall ranking between both teams, Seattle's ranked number 1. Drake May is ranked 5th overall. Defense, Seattle is 3rd. New England is 2nd, which is interesting. They're both two very strong defensive teams. Now, where it's a little bit different, and I was very surprised, is the offense. Surprisingly, the offense for the Seahawks is ranked number 11th versus 6th of New England. So New England does have a lot of really good weapons. They have a very good running game, and Drake May, being immobile as he is and a lot more elusive than people think, might give the Seattle Seahawks a little bit of a challenge. Now, how both teams fare up against the spread. So against the spread, which is basically in this case the 4.5 line, the Seattle Seahawks are 14-5 and the Patriots are 14-6. So this game, honestly, on paper, it looks like a toss-up. I know that people are like, oh, Drake May, he's a rookie and this and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but he's got a good coach. And he's got a lot of veterans in that team that want it. And I think when it comes to Seattle and their squad, they have a lot more younger team, maybe not necessarily as experienced, as tenured, and maybe as willing to go above and beyond. And will they let the big lights affect them in so much that they're going to be completely just close up on themselves and not want to do anything? Are they not going to want to perform? We don't know. And I guess we're going to find out during the game. But with that being said, I did want to make a comment. So my comadre she shot me a text that she thought that in the last episode I was going to speak on this topic, and I completely forgot about it. So, like I told you guys before, I don't like to gamble, but I've been gambling lately on these stupid games, and I've done fairly well. In the last game with the Seahawks and the Rams, I did lose, but I didn't lose all of it. So we're going to see what we're going to do this particular Super Bowl, and look at the spread and look at the overs and look at the unders, and we'll go from there. But I just want to acknowledge that I did bet a pretty nice bottle of rum with my compadre that unfortunately I might have to pay out. We bet a bottle of Flor de Caña, which is a Nicaraguan rum, and it's aged, I believe the one that we bet was 18 years old. And that one is absolutely amazing. I've been sober and I haven't drank anything since Father's Day of 2025. So I'm approaching 4 more months to be a year. And again, it's a life decision. It's a lifestyle choice that I'm choosing to go through and see how long I can go. And once I do start drinking again, it probably won't be to the excess that I was drinking before, just because I want to make myself healthy and see my kids. Just kind of peeling back the onion here a little bit. I felt that I was drinking a little bit too much, too often, and it was just getting a little bit out of hand. So I needed to scale that shit back and bring it back to normality, at least get my system right where it should be. And with a toddler and a young kid, and there's a lot of moving parts with having 3 kids, and having my wife do it all by herself is such a challenge that I had to make a decision that for our marriage, for our peace of mind, and our well-being, and also showing a good example to our kids, I needed to scale it back. So, but maybe when I go up to Washington in August, who knows, I'll have a couple drinks or whatever, but it won't be to the same level of consumption that it was before, because my family, I love them to death. But damn, can they drink, and drink often, and at all times of the day, and damn, can they hold their liquor, and they're just fun. They're all fun. There's such a wonderful vibe up there that it makes you. You guys ever go to see family you haven't seen in a while, and you go, and then you get so sad because you know you have to leave and come back? I mean, every time I see them, it's a vacation. And honestly, we could be doing nothing. We could be getting up in the morning and just kind of doing shit around my compa's garage, or it could be making coffee, or my comadre making some delicious homemade tortillas. You know, it could be absolutely nothing, just having a bowl of cereal and just having a conversation over a breakfast nook. And it's just amazing. And I love those people so much. And I don't think how amazing they are to me and how much our family looks to those trips every single year, because they're just a blessing. Every single one of them is a blessing. They're all warm, loving, and of course, no family's perfect. You're always going to have your one-offs or your moments or little family drama or little spats or some bullshit. But at the end of the day, family is family. That is the core foundation. But that group has been so solid and so loving and welcoming with me from the very jump that I can do nothing but appreciate it. But anyways, back on topic. So we bet a bottle of rum, and I have to go pay off in August of this year. Now, in this episode, I do want to dive into what just transpired this week, which some of you might have seen on the news, some of you might not. So the San Francisco 49ers finally decided on a defensive coordinator, and they decided on Mr. Raheem Morris. If you guys don't know who Mr. Raheem Morris was, he was the Atlanta Falcons head coach this past season, and he was let go by a reckless GM who was then fired himself, which was hilarious as hell also, because he lost his job. Everybody and their mama lost their job in that place. And then they hired Stefanski, who was just fired from the Browns because of the whole Shador Sanders situation and that drama. So but Raheem Morris, before that, he was a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. And he's been with the Rams, and he's been with Atlanta, and I believe he's been with somebody else, another team that escapes me, but he's been a defensive coordinator for a while, and the Niners got him. So now, this is where nepotism comes into play, and it can come back to bite you in the ass. So just so you guys know a little bit of the background, yes, he's a great coach, but to my understanding, he's also a buddy of Kyle Shanahan. They've known each other for a while. Him, McVay, they're all pretty tight. So I don't know if Kyle Shanahan hired a guy that's his buddy that he can talk to and relate with and won't be as combative when it comes to changes in scheme, versus a gentleman by the name, I think, Jim Schwartz, I believe, who is the current defensive coordinator for the Browns. But he's still under contract, so they can't release him yet. But that guy, if you guys remember him, he's the one that had the drama with Jim Harbaugh years ago when he was coaching the Detroit Lions. And I think Jim Harbaugh, during a handshake, either they got too close or Jim Harbaugh was being really dismissive and kind of shoved him out the way. And then Jim Schwartz chases him down and kind of pushes him and shit. And it turns into like a big old altercation where you thought they were going to scrap right then and there. But that didn't happen. Well, that was Jim Schwartz. But they had a great defense, the Detroit Lions did. And he's been a solid DC, honestly, in different teams, regardless of how shitty the organization might be. He's been pretty successful, and low-key knows what the fuck he's talking about and what he's doing. So I would have liked that option better. But Raheem Morris is a good option as well. He is a leader of men. He is a player's coach, so he does inspire people, not necessarily by the X's and O's, but just his demeanor and his approach and the way he comes off. So we'll see how it goes, right? Because unfortunately, Mr. Raheem Morris hasn't had a top 10 defense ever. So we'll see. But again, the Niners have Bosa, they have Warner, and I've heard rumors of the Niners apparently going after or showing interest in Max Crosby and trying to see how they can pry Mr. Max Crosby from the Raiders to come to the Niners, which is going to be another challenge in itself, but we shall see. So this whole thing, we shall see. The one interesting thing for me, though, is that the defensive coordinator that supposedly they were going to be going to was going to be Gus Bradley. And Gus Bradley has been with the Niners for a while. He used to be, if you guys don't know who he is, he used to be with the Seahawks a long time ago. He was their defensive backs coach, and he's the one that actually drafted Richard Sherman, and he helped build that Legion of Boom back in the day with Pete Carroll. He was one of the masterminds that put together that defense with Earl Thomas and all that. And I think when the Niners hired him, there was going to be that conversation of maybe he could bring in that style of defensiveness to the Niners. Because again, in football, it's kind of like if you can't beat them, replicate what the fuck they're doing and try to fix it and try to be a version of that. And it didn't quite pan out. Now, he has a very big affinity on very big corners like Richard Sherman. So I don't know. Either it worked or it didn't, or maybe the defensive coordinator that was above him just didn't figure it out or how to scheme up or use his people. I don't know. But after Raheem Morris was hired, he went over to the Tennessee Titans, and that's where he is now their defensive coordinator with Robert Saleh. And then McDermott, which is hilarious, the coach from the Bills who got fired this season, he is now the offensive coordinator for the Titans. So the Titans have he has two former head coaches. Well, one is a head coach, but you have Saleh, defensive dude. You have Gus Bradley, a defensive guy. And then you have Sean McDermott, an offensive guy with a lot of cap room. So the Titans are going to be a pretty interesting team to really follow this upcoming season, because if they hit on the draft with Cam Ward, shit, looks like a pretty interesting team. And we'll see what they end up looking like once the season starts. Because again, everything looks great on paper until you get tackled in the face and it turns into something else. So we shall see. I'll drink coffee to that. Now, in regards to something else that I want to speak on, the big topic that I wanted to really discuss here was, number one, and this was going to be a totally different topic, but BBLs. Yes, pause, right? How the fuck do you go from sports to talking about BBLs? Yeah, tune in. All right, chime in here. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. So I'm trying to grasp the understanding of the importance of them and why women get them. And I say this because recently I saw someone at a family function that I haven't seen in a while. It's someone you don't see often, you don't hang out often. And I know what this person looked like before the procedure. I saw this person growing up, and it was nothing was back there. You can't go from nothing's there to damn. You can't go from that to that. So like abruptly like that. That is nuts. I mean, I understand that people have their own opinions why they want to do it and do augmentation to their body or for whatever reason they do it. I'm not judging that. But to me, the mathing and the logic is not logicking, I guess you could say, where you're going to go on and get this procedure where it's pretty blatantly obvious that you did, and then you do a lip augmentation where you also enhance your lips, put silicone in, so you made them bigger than they were when you didn't need to, and you have a BBL. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, so people don't hate me for it, I don't think it looks attractive at all whatsoever. I think I would understand if you are in shape and if you're trying to get a six-pack and you're trying to detail and balance out your body, that you're doing all these augmentations to yourself for whatever reason. I understand that. But if you are not going to the gym and you're doing a BBL, it doesn't make sense. And I'll give you an example. So if I were to go to the gym, and when I do go to the gym, I lift weights. It depends. You have to go in there to the gym with an objective in mind. What do I want to do? Do I want to get slim? Do I want to bulk up? If you bulk up, it's a lot of protein, a lot of heavy weights, a lot of repetition, a lot of protein. If you want to get slim, obviously you have to cut down your carb intake, manage all those triglycerides and everything else. I don't know the vocabulary, but if you guys are listening and you guys are very big nutritionists, you guys know what I'm talking about. But if I don't eat right, if I don't eat well, if I ingest stuff that I shouldn't be eating, and I go to the gym and I bulk up even more, I'm stacking muscle on top of fat. So the foundation that I have in my body is right here, and then I'm adding more layers to that, right? So it's, at the end of the day, I'm gonna look just like this, todo bien soplado, you know what I mean? All swollen like this. If that's the look I'm going for, then I get it. But if that's not the look I'm trying to go for, then maybe that's not the right approach. Maybe I should start off with smaller weights, higher repetition, and burn down the shit that way, right? But again, I'm not a nutritionist, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. And if you're going to go ahead and get a BBL, it's not going to look as attractive if you go that way. If you get an augmentation that's going to make it bigger and you're already not a small person, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. And I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. If it's a self-confidence issue, that's a whole different thing, right? That's a whole psychological, it's a whole different thing. If it's vanity, I don't know. But people have their own reasons why they do this stuff, right? So I'm not judging it, but just be mindful of it and be receptive when you see it. But I saw it and it completely just blew my mind. So I was like, man, I'm going to bring that up in the podcast because I don't know how people really feel about it. And I'm not shaming it, okay? I'm not shaming it at all. It just threw me off. It looked weird to me, personally. It didn't look right. And from knowing the person before they had the procedure to now, and the way that looks like, it just didn't look very attractive. And in my personal opinion, the person didn't need to do anything to themselves. They were already pretty as it was. There was no additional augmentations or changes needed. They were already attractive just being how they were. But again, to each their own, everybody makes their own decisions why they do it. And with that being said, in regards to body shaming and body image, so one thing that I heard a comment in the same event, the same party, and from somebody that I deeply respect, and they made comments about, about soccer players. Oh, let me drink something. I got a frog in my throat. They made comments about soccer players and their look and how they're supposed to look a certain way. And I will tell you this right now. If that is the thought process that you have about a sport, that thought process is very old school, very ancient. Because now soccer players can be not necessarily the smallest, not necessarily the biggest, but there's got to be a balance. But if you have a really strong foundational player that has great mobility and is quick and is agile, their body has nothing to do with it. And the comment that they made was like, oh, if this person wants to be a better player, you need to have them run. I'm like, okay, well, they're already doing that. I'm simply showing you a video of a ball drill that they've been doing and they've mastered it. I'm not even speaking on the individual's appearance, but now you're making it about that. So now I'm watching that and now I'm getting pissed because you're missing the point. And sometimes if you're going to speak out of pocket, and again, my fault for reaching out to people knowing that sometimes they don't have a filter and expecting them to react a certain way, more mature, more up to date, not something so fucking barbaric where they're talking out of pocket and talking out of their ass. So if any of you encounter that, my advice is to walk away and just kind of remove yourself from the situation and have a conversation that it's not going to go well. But those were my experiences this weekend and what happened. I'm excited about the Seahawks game and what's going to happen. I really want Drake May to win. I know it's going to mean that the Seahawks are going to get 7 Super Bowls, and it's probably going to be a record that's going to be out there for a while. The Niners haven't even gotten to 6 yet. And I think the Steelers are the closest to 1, and that's about it. And on the Super Bowl count, but I don't want the Seahawks to win in our stadium. if the Patriots win, it's an East Coast team, so the East Coast is going to have to deal with the Patriots nonsense and their bullshit for years and for the rest of the year. I just don't want to deal with the Seahawks and my compadres and their shenanigans for an entire season. I just don't want that. But I did want to chime in on one last and final thing. So I heard my daughter mention something pretty interesting. And I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was the most silliest shit I've heard, and I thought it was BS. But I looked it up, and it looks like it caught some traction on TikTok and with people. And the one that I brought up here, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard this. So imagine you're going to bed early. You put the kids to bed, you have a cup of coffee, and you're just chilling and watching TV. It's wind down time. Everybody's in bed. Everybody's rested. Your wife is laying right next to you on your shoulder with a nice warm blanket, and you guys are watching a movie. You both go to bed. All of a sudden, around 4 o'clock in the morning, you hear your daughter screaming, yelling, and hollering. You wake up, and you feel like the pit of your stomach is in your chest. Then you look around, and then you find yourself at the roof of your home. Not in your bed, floating at the very top. Everybody's screaming. There's blankets. Everything's up in the air. Liquids. Whatever it is you can think of, everything's up in the air. Immediately after that, after 7 seconds happen, gravity comes back to normal. You get slammed on the ground wherever you're at. Everything that was now in the air is now on the floor. Liquids and everything else in between. There's havoc, commotion, disasters, etc. Everything that you can think of is completely destroyed with that little piece. Your furniture, everything that wasn't bolted down is basically in the ground. Cars, vehicles, etc. Everything. And that's a probability. So according to a TikTok user, the claim is that during their investigation or looking into certain things or hacking stuff, they came across Project Anchor, which, according to that TikTok person, said that NASA is aware of an incident that's going to happen on August 12th, 2026. And it's a viral rumor. It's originating from a social media, right? That it's stating that NASA has found that there will be an anomaly in space where basically two big black holes are going to be crashing into another and then causing a big, massive magnetic wave that's going to cause the gravity on Earth to kind of suspend for a matter of 7 seconds. And then after the waves pass, everything is going to be reset, but not to normal. The program or the rumor also says that gravity, instead of being at 100% gravity, which is what you and I are experiencing now, is going to be at 50%, which means that there's going to be a large amount of the population that will pass away because 50% gravity is not healthy long-term for anyone. And unfortunately, because of the people that do not know of this incident will not be made aware, tragedies are going to happen and the world will not be ready. However, according to the reports and the rumor that's being spread out, that NASA has known of this particular anomaly that's going to take place, and so NASA has taken measures to protect certain key figures and individuals, and where they're creating these bunkers where select people will be placed in these bunkers that have developed and created artificial gravity. So the people in these bunkers are going to survive. However, the people that are outside of these bunkers are going to be left to fend for themselves and to their own devices, which basically means that a lot of the people outside these bunkers are going to pass away. Now, after 50% gravity, there's not going to be kids being born. Obviously, they're probably going to last maybe up to a year or two because their bodies are not going to properly develop. Their limbs are not going to be properly developed. And there's going to be a massive uptick in problems, right? But, however, humanity is pretty resourceful, and I'm sure they'll find a way. to manage and last at 50% gravity. Now, according to the report, it says that after the 50% gravity, then Earth will come back to normality 7 years or 10 years after the incident. It will go back to 100%. That means that the people that have now adapted to the 50% gravity now have to readapt to 100%. And a lot of people are going to have a lot of cardiovascular issues, back problems, knee issues, and it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. Now, artificial gravity is a topic that if you guys have gone down the rabbit hole plenty of times like I have, it's a subject that you've seen in the movie Interstellar. I don't know if you guys remember seeing that movie with Matthew McConaughey. Gorgeous movie. Movie makes you fucking cry though, but a lot. But in that movie, if you guys don't know, Earth is dying. And it's a massive, uncontrollable plague that's hitting crops across the board. There is no cure for it. The world is just dying, point out, period. And so what humanity develops is a technology to transport key astronauts and individuals on a one-way trip to find habitable planets where people can leave Earth and transport themselves to there. Now, the problem that they were having is, how do you transport 1 billion people from the Earth to across space for a long period of time? It's just not sustainable. So they came up with a plan that the only way that would work is if they develop artificial intelligence to transport in these big spaceships that are going to be anchors and basically arcs full of human beings and species and plants, etc. And they're going to be able to travel across space. That's going to sustain life until they get to the planets, and then they can inhabit it and they can populate those planets as well. And the movie goes like that, and there's a lot of more deep stuff within the story and the struggles of this particular astronaut and everything that he goes through. The point is that while it's a movie, people have tried to replicate that and make that a probability. And there's a lot of physicists and a lot of inventors out there that have existed and said that they have an inkling of how to do it. Unfortunately, like I've mentioned in other previous episodes, people come up missing, and a lot of these conspiracy theories just kind of go by the wayside, and they're just rumors, right? Because the people that supposedly discovered these manufactured, fixes are gone. They disappear. So we don't know if in fact it is reality. We don't know if NASA has even discovered a lot of the shit that we're not made aware of, right? We don't know if these so-called bunkers are in fact in place. So I just found that part really particularly interesting. And I told my daughter, this is some shit. I mean, August 12th, 2026, we shall see. But again, every single year, the beginning of the year, you get someone or something saying that something's going to happen on a certain date and chime in, and there's a countdown, and we'll go from there. So we're all kind of desensitized to all these shenanigans that I think when shit does happen, everybody's going to be like, whatever, it's just fake, until it's not. And you know what movie was like that? Don't Look Up. It was a comedy with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I believe, God, what's her name? She was from Hunger Games. Jennifer something. But basically they discover a comet or an asteroid that's coming to Earth, and Earth, instead of preparing for it to try to fix it, they basically celebrate it and then make a mockery out of it, thinking that, yeah, they're going to be fine until they're not. And then they realize that they won't have a rescue, and then the world is destroyed. That's the end of the movie. Sorry for the spoiler, but fuck it. That's the movie. But it's hilarious through the whole process how all this goes. But NASA, apparently it's gotten so much popularity, this particular rumor, that NASA actually decided to release statements, which I find it hilarious, that no, there is nothing going to happen. NASA has publicly denied the existence of such a project and the alleged 7 losses of gravity. The agency has stated that the gravity is determined by Earth's mass and cannot be disabled or restored instantaneously. Instead, The event being reported is a solar eclipse on that date, which is a well-documented and predictable phenomenon. Just found that part interesting because I don't know. I really don't know what to believe in the government these days. I mean, shit, you have the Epstein files that keep on appearing and reappearing, and everybody and their mom is on that list. And at this point, I don't even know who the hell is on that list and what they did and what they didn't do. There's videos being released. There's hacker groups going into these files and finding people that were guilty of some of these shenanigans. So I don't know. There is our current administration and political leaders that are in those lists. We shall see. It's going to be an interesting 2026. But with that being said, thank you very much for chiming in and tuning in. Make sure that you like, hit subscribe, drop a comment. I really want to get the feedback and comment going. Right now, we're getting the subscribers going very, very well, but I want to engage with some of you. And I know that some of the subscribers might be bots. Some of them might not. I don't know. You can't even tell with analytics. I'm not that advanced. I'm just doing this because I want to do this and I'm having fun with you. But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to keep this brief. It's been about 40 minutes. I'm going to try to keep these episodes under an hour and see how we go. But thank you. God bless. Appreciate you very much. Good night. Enjoy the Seahawks losing the Super Bowl. I'm saying it right now, John. This is for you. They're going to fucking lose the Super Bowl. I'm predicting the score. Let me see if I can predict the score. All right. Let's do this real quick. It'll be fun. The score is going to be 30-17.